horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a massive warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday Sermon. My name's Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk. With me today discussing the hot topics of the week and your questions is John Lang of John Joe's Blogspot. Fantastic blogspot. It's doing fantastic this year. Check him out. A lot of fun on there. You'll get the Ginger Itlin from time to time on there. And it's worth a look out. And give me a shout if you can't get on and I'll get John to help you get on. He's a fantastic Facebook page. Also on this episode is Lorne Malvo off Twitter. A good friend of mine and certainly plenty of good ideas about the sport, and we hope this episode will fulfill your needs for the week ahead. Something for the weekend, sir.
A bit late now, isn't it? Sunday.
I know.
You should be watching Highway and Harry Seacombe and having a cup of tea or something.
Bonanza in the afternoon first.
Bonanza, yeah.
Bonanza. Right. Lost in space before Bonanza.
Yeah. Bit of Dukes of Hazzard or something.
Then football Italia.
Yeah, well, you watch Dukes of Hazzard with the tea tray on your lap as a kid when Daisy Duke used to come on the TV, or at least I did anyway. But yeah, there you go.
My sipping Saturday wasn't so hot because I went for Duke of Hazzard Saturday and they won with General Lee. And what's all that about?
The irony, hey?
What's all that about? You're taking the mickey there. Right, very busy show, so straight on with it. I'm going to start with a question that's obviously not connected to any of our topics that we're going to get onto shortly. One from Joel Langford, who's a good listener of the show. Joel is from my hometown in York as well. And he says, chaps, is Maymas, as he's having plenty of 2-year-old winners, do you think he could produce any that will go make a top-class 3-year-old and older horse? John, any views on Maymas?
Yeah, he's just a bit bigger than a Labrador, isn't he? Nah, he won't go on, mate. Fuck all, really. I mean, he was fuck all himself, was he, apart from a 2-year-old? All the male siblings were gelded early. There's nothing really in his makeup that would suggest he would get older ones or would have even made an older one. So, not for me.
I would go with that. Lou Sale is the flagship of Maymas this year. 2-year-old obviously won the. I forget what he won now. Was it? Weren't the Gym Crack? Was it this year? The latest one.
Someone else won the Gym Crack. God knows.
What did he win at What was it? Was it the Acomb?
No, Tilt won the Acomb.
Right. I've had a complete memory blank. Anyway, July Stakes winner was LaSalle. I forgot what he's won since. Just somebody's going to really take the mickey here. And this is gin and some very vintage Bordeaux this afternoon. But yeah, Maymas, I believe, produces generally fast ground types. They're generally quite compact. They move quite well, so Maymas in general doesn't want softer ground, and I do think that he'll produce a lot of sort of cheat unless he gets better mares. But I mean, for now, I think he's just going to produce decent 2-year-olds that probably don't go on at 3. So John makes a very good point there. Our next question is a question from John Hines, and he says, what is it time for old Tom to move on to at price-wise? A hot tipster in that role would actually be good for the game and create a bit of buzz. Chris, I'll come to you.
I kind of agree, actually. I think the price-wise brand has sort of tailed off. It's sort of like Woolworths now, isn't it? A few years back, without the pick and mix, a few years back, when you had the likes of Mark Coton and sort of Mel Collier and others, it genuinely used to move markets. But then, obviously, the guarantees as the prices went. And the whole kind of ethos about finding value is kind of made redundant by what happened. So I think it's just another tipping column now, and I think it certainly needs shaking up because for me it's completely irrelevant. As for Tom Siegel, I think he's probably gone now, isn't he? Gone at the game. He doesn't have the same impact that he used to have. But whether that's because of the lack of guarantees of the prices or he's just lost interest, I've no idea. But a new, refreshed price-wise with some new faces might not be a bad idea. So I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, good stuff. John, your views on the on the wane price-wise?
Old Tom. Makes him sound like old Yeller, doesn't it? You know, you see Bruce Milliton slipping his lead on him for one last walk and taking him to the woodshed and giving him I
was thinking more Uncle Remus than that. But that's a good
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know anybody that's waiting on a price-wise selection. I mean, there used to be a proper buzz about it, didn't there?
Oh, yeah.
I think it just needs scrapping and something else launching, to be honest. Everybody's fed up with it, really. You know, take Tom to the woodshed and give them both barrels.
Who was the best one, John? The best price was it?
Mark
Coton, yeah.
The original was still the best.
Doug Mountjoy.
Remember how soon they forget? He tipped me 80-1, didn't he? And he admitted that he just simply was the only snooker player that he'd ever heard of. So he thought, I'll pick him. This is fair enough.
Mark Coton was, I rated Mark Coton. He would be the best price wise. But yeah, I mean,
I read his book actually.
Tremendous book. Tremendous. Yeah. He writes very, very well about punting, and you know that sort of book he wrote. He sort of said a bet is a self-induced crisis, which I think is probably the best description of a bet that I've ever read.
I like that. A bet is a self-induced crisis. That is. I can relate to that so often. Usually when I'm out for the day, you know, like it can't half spoil a day out. You know, it's the one where you've got an absolute stormer of a bet, and you know it's a crazy price. You think, well, I'm going to back this, so you back it, and then you look on Betfair 10 minutes before the race. You're at a function, and it's drifted again. It's it's gone out another point, and you think, well, I've got to have more on because this is just gold. Yeah. And then you've got the Betfair video on your phone, and someone's trying to talk to you across the table, and you're going, yeah. And then you're looking at your Betfair video, and you see it get chinned.
Thing,
right on the
line. You
line.
have to try and maintain the sort of decorum and polite face when inside you're kind of
your insides are now falling down your colon. And then you know, and the chap or the lady that's talking to you across the table, you go, yeah.
You're right. Yeah. He tells a tale in the book of how he found an absolute plot, and he rang up he had to go into an interview or something, and he had to try and ring the bet through on an old phone box. And when he got through to Ladbrokes, he couldn't remember his account number, so they blocked him out. And of course, he shit up at sort of 12-1, and he was sort of desolate for the rest of the month. But yeah, we can all empathise, I think, with that.
Tremendous quote from the book there from Chris. So that's the answer on price wise. Wheel him out, do him in. Next question, again before we go on to topics, is Andrew Woodman. Very, very topical list today for me because this was thrown out today wrongly. With the amount of dubious amended results at present, chaps, surely it's time to use the VAR principle and have professional stewards who work from a central base. John, I'll come to you on this.
You know, I've been advocating this for some time now. I cannot believe we've got a sport that's still policed by part-time colonel blimps.
They're full-time colonels.
Well, you know, we've got stipendiary stewards that are mates with the jockeys because they're ex-jockeys. The whole kit and caboodle wants scrapping as soon as possible. But whether they will or not's another matter. I mean, they're just inert on things that are important, aren't they? You know, they don't get anything done that actually matters to people, you know. They can organise themselves to do a frigging whip consultation and spend 6 months on it. But something like this that actually affects people and has people interested in talking about it, honestly, it's trying to make fog, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Chris, do you agree with John on that?
I couldn't put it better myself, John. Absolutely, it's nuts that we've got a system that relies on heavily lunched amateur stewards making decisions that cost, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of risk or millions of pounds in big races, and it's just ludicrous. So, but as John says, whether they will wake up to that, I rather doubt it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing this week they've chucked 3 horses out this week, and arguably, I'm not saying it's never a foregone conclusion, but arguably you could have potentially left all 3 alone. In fact, the betting suggested that the first one at Foss Last this week went off at was 1-10 to keep the race. That was thrown out unbelievably, and everyone was like flabbergasted by that. So then there was another one on the same card that was similar, so then had to go really, and it was all like into the air. Everyone's got opinions on this, and I'm all for it, but we don't need to be chucking horses out when it's sort of in the twilight zone. When if it's in the twilight zone, it's easy. For me, this is how VAR works. How the cricket is the best way of umpiring any sport. If you look on the ball tracking, if it's clipping the stumps, it goes with the umpire's call. So if umpires gave it not out, then it's, and so on and so on. And racing should be like that. If it's definitive, without doubt, then to put it simply, the horse should go. If it's not definitive, then it simply stands. And this is now, I think they've actually changed tack, chaps. I think, honestly, there's been some directive that we don't know about, because the last few weeks we've seen, 5 or 6 disqualified in the last sort of month?
Yeah.
So something, have they not told us? Are they all milking the exchanges? Are they all thinking, well, this is going to go because we've told them all to be more strict, but we've not told the betting public? What is it?
Well, we had last year, isn't it?
Well, it's honestly, I could not bet now on it. I used to pride myself on being fairly right on stewards' inquiries, because I could read probably how they were thinking, and secondly, what was the right call. And in fact, I could call most stewards' inquiries in about 2 minutes maximum. Why they need 20 minutes and 20
That's because you're on the same amount of gin as them fuckers.
I'm on turbo, especially with the Red Bull. But I mean, the thing is that look at the referee on VAR. When he goes to the telly on the pitch, not the one in the studio, he goes to the telly and he's called to judge on a penalty or a sending off. He doesn't stand there for 20 minutes playing it backwards and forth.
No.
And interviewing the players. It literally is right. He might stand there for a minute if it's a tricky one, but that's it. It literally is. Yes, and you always give the benefit of doubt if it is tricky, because if you can't decide, then it has to stand with your original decision. And this is why, to me, they've moved the goalposts on this, because and the Horse Betters Forum got involved on this question as well on our Twitter page. They actually said today, Martin Hughes said that the Horse Betters Forum in 2018 lobbied in 2018 for the stewards to do something similar to the NFL, which was basically review everything from a central studio with a small group of people reviewing things. And they said, sadly, others, they didn't say who, others in the industry disagreed. Now, John, who are the others?
Nicole Kidman film, isn't it? The others.
Yeah.
I mean, who are the others, John?
It's anybody's guessing.
I mean, it could be. I mean, like you said about these. And what are the? Do you know what I'd like to know? These steward panels that are on, say, each race meeting. What's their salaries?
Should be, I think. You know, I mean, well, we know they get a lunch.
I mean, I'd like to know if anyone can put on our Twitter feed, what the stewards actually get paid. Either is it per meeting, is it per annum, and expenses accounts? What is it? No one has. I actually do not know this. So I mean, how many race courses are there in the land? How many stewards do we have unnecessarily? How many are taking out the pot when racing can't even fund races properly and owners are suffering?
Scary.
It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace that we cannot have a central, like the Horse Bettors Forum said, a central panel of 3, or with obviously they need holidays, so you need a reserve list, but etc. But it's going to be a lot cheaper than employing Colonel Mustard with the lead piping.
The trouble is, even if they have a central committee or panel or whatever you call it, they still won't address the problem that they've got around their recruitment policy, and you'll have a load of ex-jockeys sat there.
Yeah, that's true enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, like, for example, Ironside on at the races. I mean, terrible accident on the racetrack, promising jockey. I'm not, but it's like you say, it walks straight into a job. And George Baker the same on racing TV. Terrible accident at San Moritz. Don't wish accidents on anyone or anything like that, but straight into a media punditry role. And I bet there's a lot of people out there that have done degrees that have worked the butt off to try and get a media role somewhere or something, and have got a passion for the sport.
Right, blogger. He's got a passion for the sport.
The blogger yesterday, John. He had his pockets turned out yesterday. He walked out yesterday. I saw this video, and he's done his brains yesterday.
Yeah, his pockets turned out. He wasn't doing an elephant impression.
No, I was just about to say that. That's just a crap joke. You beat me to the punch there.
Yeah, that'd be for the stallion that later.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, it illustrates this. I mean, once you've got your feet in the gravy boat in racing, I mean, you got Megan Nichols there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a bloodstock agent now.
Yeah.
And then
spending other people's money.
I'm going to be CEO of the BHA next week. And I'm going to, and where the fuck is she getting the qualifications from to do this? Who the hell wants their buying asses for them? She's probably known what horse is about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I know, all right, Nichols and all the rest of it, but she hasn't been buying his horses.
No. The one thing I can say from this game, in any part of the industry, whether it's bloodstock, professional punting, whether it's training, riding, you get better with time and experience, and there's no way I would ever trust any of my money with anybody sort of in the, the early years, because you simply don't know enough about the game. It takes time to get where people are, both in training ranks, jockey ranks, everything. And like you said, John, it's amazing, this game.
Well,
really.
I mean, she's going to go to the sales and pick one out for you and have an idea of what it's going to look like at 4 years old. It's going to have a rainbow crested neck and a fucking unicorn.
Yeah. But how many winners have you ridden now? That's what I want to know.
Ain't as many as her.
Fucking right. Yeah. Fucking hell.
Okay, we've two more questions before we get on to the topics of the show to get through. And Philbert Bagshot says, is there a case for just backing horses every time they run to level stakes? For example, he makes a point, Billersdenbrook won 7 from 35 in a career, SPs of 66 to 1, 12 to 1, 16 to 1, and have always appeared friendless in the market. Chris, come to you.
Well, you wouldn't want to fucking back my horses level stakes for their entire career. I think you'd be in the workhouse.
No, mine.
It depends on the horse, really. I mean, I don't necessarily understand the question. I suppose it depends on the horse, doesn't it? I mean, if you've identified something that you think's got a huge amount of potential that's consistently underrated by the market, then yeah, you might want to follow it irrespective. But as a strategy, my answer would be no.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a case of if you I'll give you an example. Filbo Bagshot. If you pick a horse out that you like, or you've seen it on video, or you just like a horse going forward, you think, ooh, that's took my eye. For example, Astilio at Beverley on Saturday, or it might be something else that you've been watching and you think, I'm waiting for this. Right, there are times when you probably can. You can probably back it between now and the end of the season. If you had £1 on Astilio between the now and the end of the season, a betting man would say this horse is going to pop up. And so therefore, you've got some credence to your argument, but you've obviously got to pick the right horses. And that the skill is picking a horse out on and never, sometimes probably don't give up on them. Sometimes punters, myself included, you can watch a horse ran eye-catchingly well, and you think, oh, this will win this. And then if it runs flat, you think, maybe I was wrong. Then next time out, 25s, bang, and you sort of, the number of times that's happened, you feel sick. Horses aren't machines. There are many variables that get horses beat, and yeah, so that'd be my advice. John, anything further to add on that?
Just trying to get my head around what the hell kind of question it is, really. I mean, is there a case for just backing horses every time they run at level stakes? Well, so you're going to start with an unraced horse, because if it runs and wins first time up, you're already stuffed as regards following the system.
Yeah.
So you're just going to be picking out a series of unraced horses and then following them off a cliff. Especially for by Maymas. No.
Quicksilver CrossFit, how's that doing? I'm following that religiously. That's doing all right, is it?
Listen,
mine 10,000.
Listen, you say this. Look at Celerity the other day for Lisa Williamson the other week.
That is true.
107 runs and then bomb 33s at Haydock. Everyone's written it off. This can't win. In fact, Peter Norton, John said,
don't set me off with that.
No, he likes him. He's his favourite pundit.
That's why I brought it up, really.
I can't be over that bastard. I cannot.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up, John, is because obviously Peter Norton was on record saying at Haydock, this was a while ago, and he said, I really don't know why they keep running this horse, and I really think it should be retired. And Lisa Williamson shoved it right up Peter Norton.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, yesterday was rock bottom from him as far as I'm concerned. He actually tried to, after time, a double after the first leg had gone in at 1-4. There was a 1-4 favourite, Carl Burks, has gone in. Struggled to win at that, but it won. Then Norton, international boys down at the start, this could be the second leg of an each way double. I think, what the hell am I listening? He didn't say each way, actually. He just said, anybody that likes sharp prices could have been doing a double on these two. Then international boy gets beat, and he's there again. Well, anybody that did that double's done the money, haven't they?
Yeah, fucking mugs. Yeah.
I thought, honest to God, I can't take much more out of this. And I've never had the telly on so much mute as I had last night. I literally couldn't stand it. I'd have been putting my foot through it.
Quality. Right. We'll finish the questions off now before we get onto the topics with Carl Swanson. And he says he's not happy with ITV's coverage. Good listener of the show is Carl Swanson. Loves us. So thank you, Carl, for all your questions. Over the time you've been with us, probably I would say since the beginning, really. And he says, how much longer can ITV keep churning out this pointless guff that they're doing? He goes, I thought yesterday sunk to an all-time low with the chinless wonder, Bell, watching a Punch and Judy show and then telling us kids could get a pet goat or a sheep, for God's sake. I can't stand the bullshit anymore. You've got Chamberlain tell us it's emotional after every race, and Jason Listener Weaver with the giggling Kamane. Enough's enough. I mean, I didn't watch ITV yesterday. Did any of you two watch ITV?
I did. I did, and I thought Punch and Judy were so indistinguishable from the presenting team. To be honest with you, I think I prefer to have had the fucking policeman, Punch and Judy, and the crocodile presenting the program. I mean, look, Cole's right. ITV coverage is now very much. It's kind of like a sort of a sport version of Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. It's everything except the main event, isn't it? It's all about all the fun of the fair, all the other things unrelated to the actual core business, which is betting on horses. And I agree. I think it's cringeworthy, dreadful program, and I think they've lost direction. They just simply have no idea how to promote betting as an enjoyable and responsible pastime, and they forget that betting funds the sport. So how much longer they can carry on with this, God only knows.
Bob on, John.
Francesca Kamani used to be a lot better at this when she was doing it for Australian TV. But you give one of these entitled, moneyed people from families that have never had to do with hard days yakking in their lives, you give them a glimpse of an easy shift, and they'll take it every time. And she's no longer doing any research. She's there having a bit of a giggle. And it's just filling in time until she gets a late entertainment slot of a weekend somewhere. And the whole show is absolute cobblers from start to finish. Chapman is a joke. And again, I know what Geoff Banks said the other night when he said he can turn it off and on and he's doing it to broaden the appeal. Chapman's a bully. The only people he criticises in racing are the little guys.
Yeah.
He's all too happy to crawl up the arses of people like Roger Charlton when they're landing a touch after they've been snaking one round at the back. It's boom and all this cobblers.
Yeah, it's awful.
And anybody gets done for stopping one, and if they're less than 50 rides a month, he's all for hanging them.
Yeah.
It's cringeworthy, John. That's the whole thing. You hide behind a cushion watching it. I mean, somebody I know doesn't follow racing came into the house a couple of weeks ago and Chapman was on, and he said, "Who the fuck's that?" He says, "You fucking all there?" I said, "Well, no, that's the anchor man for betting coverage." He couldn't believe it.
I don't like to pull it to bits completely. I think Leona May has been a find. She at least looks prepared to present racing and that has done some work on the subject matter at hand. But other than that, I mean, Waver's just going through the motions. I mean, as Carl says, Jason Listen Waver. That, you know, I mean, if he wasn't on the telly, he'd get a job as the fucking Green Cross Code man. Stop, look, listen.
Yeah.
You know.
Good stuff. I mean, the only thing the thing that concerns me is the fact that betting is sort of overlooked. I think that's a massive worry because we've got Racing Post writers in the last week. I can't remember the journalist's name. She's a young lady. I don't want to sort of mention her or sort of like dismiss her article, but it was kind of coming from the York did a tremendous job angle, and it depends what you call a tremendous job. I mean, like I said, did everyone turn up in the numbers and get pissed? And was it a fantastic social affair? Yes, it was. But as we've covered on this show before, is this going into racing's coffers?
No.
So if we can't fund a sport that produces prize money and stops everyone selling to King Kong, and you know when they get a 90 horse, and then we get 5 runners at Newmarket on a Friday for a class 2 and 3 handicap, because there's no horses left. Because they're all targeting the big meeting. The good horses are targeting the big meetings, big meeting handicaps. I suppose we've always had that, but I would presume that in the past an owner would be less inclined to sell if they were getting rewarded in terms of prize money. I think I would. If I owned a 90 horse and King Kong offered me 300,000 for my 95 rated 3-year-old, if I knew I could race for 100,000 for the win and I were getting, 20,000 a place or 50, then I'd be reluctant to sell. And I think this is the problem that the BHA are sort of overlooking, and this in the calendar now. For example, my horse is entered on Friday at Newcastle, and there are 33 entries for my horse's race. Why? Because he's rated 61. The other races that aren't so low, it's lesser entries. You could fill the 0 to 60s and the 0 to 55s 10 times over. The problem is everyone's selling once they get a decent horse.
Yeah,
and I think that's the issue here. That an ITV by promoting non-betting, I don't think helps the sport the way it's funded.
Well, I think my alternative to the levy funding model is I think the Giacomo catalogue should contribute to the levy, because all the people they're attracting to the races all buy Giacomo suits on tick, go there, have a few lines of nose bag and a punch up. That's the sort of people they want. So Giacomo contribute to the fucking levy, I think. That's where the money is. That's my great idea, and I'm going to trademark that immediately. So there you go.
Fair play. Right, we'll move on to this. John, are you with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
We'll move on now to the serious part of the show, where we've got 3 serious topics, one of which was a very good debate we had on the Bar Stewards on a sermon special earlier this week, and it featured Geoff Banks, who kindly came on the show, an on-course and online bookmaker, fairly well known, obviously done Channel 4, etc., and things like that in the past. Got plenty of good things to say, and I thought Geoff held his own very, very well. We've had a couple of questions regarding that show. 50p wasn't that impressed. He said he wasn't a fan of how Geoff kept shifting the issues with bookmakers to others and blaming arbors, etc. And he said basically he should take more responsibility himself. John Hines said he takes his point about not wanting traders, perfectly understandable. But is the punter, John Hines says, who has 5 to 6 accounts and only uses each firm when they are top price, still wanted? Why are they sort of discriminated against? Or are bookmakers now demanding loyalty? Of course, basically, in other words, you should bet with them even if you're not getting the best price. So on. Chris? Did you listen to the show?
I did, and fair play to Geoff, who I agree more than held his own. Actually, I thought, because by appearing on a forum like this, he's on a hiding to nothing, really, isn't he? So fair play to him. I think on the question of that Geoff. I think one of the questions sort of indicated that Geoff was more defensive than he might have been. I think the problem Geoff's got, as a lot of independent players have, they simply cannot compete with the marketing spend of companies like Bet365. And what he's trying to do, he's trying to offer the recreational punter a fair crack at the whip. Now, the problem is what do we really think Geoff regards as the recreational punter? Is it what is a recreational punter in Geoff's kind of lexicon of terms? Now, I would argue that is a long-term losing punter. I think that it is code for long-time losing punters. And I think when he mentions arbors, etc., you will get people that, consistently will pick him off when he's top price. But I do think there are a lot of people that there are likely to have been a lot of people that have been closed down or restricted by Geoff who aren't arbors, who are simply people that Geoff regards as the potential to be long-term winners. So I don't always buy the arbor argument. I think it's code for, we think you're going to beat us in the long term, so we're going to call you an arbor, and that's certainly my experience anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is that if Betfair finishes, which Geoff sort of indicated in his interview that Betfair's days kind of are on the wane. If, lo and behold, we don't really have an exchange model anymore, what would the bookmakers do? Because you have to get an opinion, and if people are in the shadows and not able to sort of bet, it's all right having this tissue marking service overnight and punters being able to get on, but which is the 20s and the 10s. The point is that if Betfair's not there to guide them on a sure tissue, surely people like myself, for example, are just going to be stood there at race courses, waiting for the ricks, the price. I'll probably go back on course if Betfair finishes, and I've still got an interest in the game. I'll probably go back on course, because no longer have they got the clerks to look at computers and look at Betfair and go, oh well, Betfair are 3.7. He wants 9-4. Let's lay him. They've not got that comfort blanket anymore. So the on-course books all of a sudden have to start working for the day. And are we going back to a stage where then when on-course bookmakers, such as Geoff Banks' father, starts getting jockeys in the pockets, getting info, getting that edge on the punter, which is what used to happen, which is probably gave leverage for somebody like Phil Bull to walk down the line and go, yes, I would like 3,500 on this. What would you lay me this? Like a gentleman back in the stands, and that's how it used to work. That was the old days. And I mean, number of non-triers probably Phil Bull back probably quite a lot, because the how it worked back then was a lot different to how it works now. Now you've probably got jockeys now that possibly resort to, I don't know. I mean, look at Charles Burns. He laid his horse in India, and the Viking Horde at Tremor, which brings me on to another question from Golf Boy that basically says about drifters, and he said that should we as punters, are we conditioned as punters that drifters can't win, etc. I think to answer that, there's so many variables that affect a horse's price. It could be anything from a bang in the horse box on the way there, the horse has travelled badly, to something more sinister. There's lots of reasons why horses drift. As I've pointed out numerous times on this show, I owned a horse called Neptune Equester. I got a leg in him, and he sweated terribly before Weatherby, something he'd not done at Sedgefield the time before when he ran well in the Durham National. And yet he sweated horrifically. And I mean, Brian had to chuck loads of water on him. And yet the horse absolutely bolted up. These are all variables that everyone has to consider. Doesn't necessarily mean the horse is not going to win. It could be just a drift because of X, Y, Z, rather than said jockey going to India. If this all stops, if Betfair stops, you can bet your bottom dollar the books will be trying to create their own cartel again and their own markets. The false gambles in the morning at Ladbrokes when they used to do it 10s into 3s. Oh, they're back in the Dave Evans one that's been down the field for the last 6 runs. That will win today then. And then all of a sudden SP 16-1. You'll say, well, it's no different now on Betfair. That can happen if the owners aren't on. It's true. But the bookmakers want the cartel. The bookmakers want all the cake, if you like. And Betfair, all Betfair's doing really is making the bookmakers be lazy and bet to Betfair, if you like. John, have you any take on Geoff's interview earlier this week? I know you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought the comments were interesting when... the first comment you read out, where the lad said he thought it was disappointing Geoff was shifting the blame to the bigger firms and all that. I mean, I kind of get that, but I do genuinely think Geoff was speaking from the heart throughout that interview.
Definitely.
And I don't think he was saying it in an effort to shift blame or wash his hands of a decision. I think he was saying it because he genuinely felt that,
Yeah.
It was a good take. I mean, he was very honest. He's very candid. And I think fair play to him for sort of sticking his head above the parapet. What did surprise me was there wasn't as many kind of, oh yeah, but you restrict me to 10p, Geoff, when I try to have 10 grand on an A9 at fucking Sheffield or whatever. All that kind of talk. So I thought that the feedback was very, very constructive. Thought it was a good interview.
Yeah, I mean that was my final thoughts really. That he came across very knowledgeable and very knowledgeable at his trade, his sport. Obviously, been in the game a long time. I had more respect from him after the interview than before. I felt that there could have been one or two issues I could have probably done a little bit better on, but he handled himself well. And the only thing I've got an issue with is obviously the affordability checks, which I think are an absolute disgrace, really. I think the affordability checks are, but I think, is that typical of society as we're moving? This is society now. It's not society in the 80s, the 90s. This is where, it's like we're talking about we're having too much McDonald's, we're having too much gin, we're having too many bets, we're chucking ourselves off bridges because we're having too many bets. It's a different society. We've lowered the Grand National fences, and this brings me nicely onto our next topic: the overwatering of the ground. Talking about nanny states, the overwatering of the ground, which is now for me, and I think I'm going to pair it up with the Grand National fences and the lowering of those fences to appease animal rights. Nick Davies pointed out a long time ago to us on social media. He does some research on going sticks and how we've become this. Right, we must water. Good to firm. That's no good. I honestly think in 2 or 3 years' time, good is the new normal on the summer flat. We're not even, because we're at a stage now. We're watering the firm out of the ground. Yeah. And this is just it's an unacceptable position. I mean, Newmarket Saturday. If anybody watched it, the times were all sort of slower than standard, not by a lot, but to say that they'd had no rain since,
It was the print they were making there as well.
It was horrible, wasn't it? Horrible, John, wasn't it?
It looked awful.
All the top were coming off. In fact, if you'd have said, I will challenge any punter that watched the videos of Newmarket Saturday and didn't watch that, didn't know the ground in advance. There's no way you're saying that's good to firm. The way they're kicking that turf up, there's no way that's good to firm.
They're going all over the frigging track looking for decent ground.
Well, that's another thing. How many tracks have we all noticed now, folks, where horses are wandering all over the course? They're hanging from look at Ascot, how they hung to a rail. Look at they did it at Goodwood, hanging all over the place, banging into each other. And it was Christian Stranger, a fellow professional punter, friend of mine, that said he got a theory that horses hang for the best ground. Naturally, if we're runners and we're athletes and we're running down a track, and then all of a sudden your right leg feels like, wait, hang on, my left leg's sinking here, my right leg's not. Right, so you move to the ground. That's obviously that's what horses do. It's easier. And I just genuinely think that this watering, Redcar's the same, John. You're local, a disgrace, right? There was a bias. There's been a bias for a while now at Redcar. They've 100% watered out that bias. I don't care what anyone says. They have deliberately watered out that bias, because the reason I say it is because for yonks, for God knows how long, low numbers have been favoured, right? You try and win from stall one now, you ain't gonna. Right, I don't know what's happened. Something's happened. It's sort of middle to high now, and low draws are just goosed. And this is my point, that tracks are deliberately interfering with. I don't know what they're doing, but they are. And Thirsk the other day was Thirsk get the biggest disgrace of the week. And if their clerk John Joe Sanderson wants to come on here and discuss this, fair play, they can, because. What they did the other day was they didn't have a drop of rain since last Saturday, not one drop. They had light drizzle, which was less than 3 millimeters on the morning of racing, I think it was Thursday. And yeah, Thirst were good to soft. They started the meeting on good to soft, middle of summer. No rain since last Saturday. They're an absolute, with times 3 and 4 seconds slow. They're awful. Absolutely awful.
Yeah,
Geoff.
I mean, how can you have a bet in the first race of any card these days? You take your life into your hands. You've got to wait for the first race to see what the ground's like. That's mad. That's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, John, do you share my concerns?
Well, this is where we're at, isn't it? I mean, and again, it's down to the BHA being inert over a serious issue and not wanting to get their arms around it. This is 10 years we've been banging on at the BHA about this sort of thing and how it was getting out of hand and they were ruining courses, and all they do is sit there nodding like that he's done on those. It makes you sick.
I mean, Horse Bettors Forum, obviously, Martin Hughes responded to a post today. Simon Rowlands also responded to Andrew Woodman's post on our timeline today. If you can sort, if you listen to this pod, if you can sort out a meeting with the BHA again on the present the Going Stick archive to them. Literally, Ascot's gone down a full point, like calling it good to firm. It's monstrous what they're doing. It's a massive shaft to the punter, an enormous shaft to the punter, because anyone punting at Thirst the other day expecting, well, they've given it good to soft, but I mean, how can they give it good to soft? How? It's impossible to be good to soft ground up here in the north. We've had no rain since York on Saturday. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days after Saturday, no rain, not a drop, not a solitary drop up in the northeast here. And yet we start on good to soft. It is unacceptable for summer flat racing. Unacceptable. I mean, what makes me laugh is Thirsk, their first meeting of the year, started on rattling quick good to firm.
What's unacceptable as well, Lee, is the fact that the BHA can just let that go and not have any sort of inquiry into why it was good to soft.
Yeah.
They've got ex-jockeys again in positions like inspectors of courses. What the hell are they paying these people for?
Absolutely. Yeah. Going back to something else to do with the Geoff Banks interview, I just forgot to mention, was we did some research this week on the Gambling Commission, and we were shocked to see the amount of power the Gambling Commission have. Geoff was right in some of his quotes in terms of what the licensing laws contain and what the bookmakers have to do. Now, the bookmakers don't have to demand the documentation, right? That's not in the Gambling Commission's terms and conditions. However, the Gambling Commission have basically given bookmakers full license to basically do what they want, and they expect the bookmakers to come down hard on potential risk gamblers. That's the problem, though. It's a very broad brush. It basically says that the Gambling Commission expects bookmakers, or they can revoke the bookmaker's license. So I kind of get why the bookmakers have reacted the way they have in terms of affordability checks. But what worries me more than the bookmakers is the power the Gambling Commission has. Where has this come from? This is a government quango. The Gambling Commission are a government quango. They have grown like a monster. 10 years ago, they were supposed to represent the punter. They were supposed to help the punter in terms of maybe disputes with the bookmakers. They have suddenly grown into this government-funded with an average wage of, £60,000? 60,000 average wage in the Gambling Commission. 355 employees. They made a 20 million loss last year. Right, this is a company that is basically potentially, Peter Shilton included, ready to attack normal punters that have a vested interest in the sport. And it's like, why is this allowed to happen? The Gambling Commission have the power, believe it or not. This doesn't have to go through Parliament. The Gambling Commission could recommend on a bookmaker's license that maximum bets be £500 maximum without proof of income. And that would not have to go through Parliament. That's how much power they have. It's scary. And I've read all through the terms and conditions. By the way, your data, if you produce your data to a bookmaker, i.e. proof of funds, it could be a bank statement, it could be a share, whatever, pension, whatever, this will be shared with a third party. 100%. Why? Because we've checked. It's in the terms and conditions. It's a company in Leeds, right, that has this information and has your information and can use it for any purpose they see fit. This is fact. And this is something that punters will not be aware of because punters don't care. They just want to bet. They just want to get up in the morning, place a bet on a horse, and lo and behold, your data and everything else is held by a company in Leeds that can do what the hell they want with it. What on earth is happening to this game? The BHA are absolutely powerless on this. The BHA have no power. The game now is run by the Gambling Commission, and they liaise with the government, etc., etc. The BHA are just arbiters of the sport, just making a complete hash and a mess of things. There we go. No good news there. As there ever is, we always moan on this show, but I just thought I'd give you some facts that other people can't be asked to read. The small print, if you like, it's the print that no one ever reads. Right, so it comes on to our final topic this week, which is in running betting. John, you love it in running bet, don't you?
I do, occasionally. Yes. It usually seems to be when it's going to cause maximum annoyance, and I have to say on either I've backed a winner in running.
The problem. What I see within running betting at the moment is that obviously, and this has been since the dawn of time, we've got drones in the sky now, run by private operations that broadcast fast picks. Obviously people taking advantage. Obviously that's the market. But what I don't understand is, again, this is like this for me is the BHA, because surely they can get involved with tracks and say, well, look, if you can't beat them, join them, lads. I mean, surely if they set up a fast picture service around the world, imagine how many subscriptions you could get to be able to bet in running on British horse racing at, say, 0.6, 0.7 seconds behind live. Imagine the as long as you're under that 1 second delay, how many people can you actually get? I would say, I'd even guess it between 5,000 and 10,000 paying £100 a month, minute, £100 for bang live in running picks. Now, the income there is enormous, absolutely enormous. You could probably pay more than £100. You could probably demand a bigger premium. I mean, I don't know, but you've got the world audience at your feet, and you could share this with the tracks, with the prize money, with everything. But yet they're just letting drones fly high in the sky. They're just doing nothing. Betfair does nothing. And I just think there's a product here that could be really sort of fluid and offer people chances in the game, offer people a chance to make money, offer everyone really, make the sport thrive. Do you agree, chaps?
Definitely. The problem is, though, as we've said ad nauseum in the past, that betting isn't part of the administrator's DNA. Nobody cares enough about it. So it is, again, just an unfortunate sideshow. But I agree. A license for genuinely live pictures, licensed around the world to potential subscribers, would generate a huge amount of revenue. But no one gives a shit about betting. That's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, as long as the industry continues to promote non-betting issues, i.e. ITV sport, which, by the way, I will say it's quite polished. It's a polished product.
Well, yeah, it's a good product. It's a good presentation, but the problem is they're presenting the wrong subject matter. That's the issue.
It is. And for me, that's the worry that going forwards, I really fear for the sport. Now, whether bookmakers are that bothered, because I genuinely believe that Betfair days will be numbered in time, and I think bookmakers will want that cartel back that they've always had. back in the old days where they could, they could basically dupe punters into anything. And that's what I believe the end game is. I mean, don't forget Betfair's owned by Paddy Power.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be too concerned that they were £10 million down on turnover at Goodwood. They don't seem to be making noises, worrying about it, or thinking, right, we better sort this. So I genuinely fear for anybody trying to come into the sport and trying to make a bit of money from a punting angle. That's from my angle. So I think we've just about covered everything, folks. Anything for you guys to add for this week or anything? I mean, John, I know you're very keen on Ostilio for the Portland.
I'm extremely keen on Ostilio for the Portland. I was extremely keen on Ostilio for the Portland before he wasted everybody's time running it in that bloody thing yesterday.
Yeah. You're worried now it's going to be 7-6, 11-2, 5, 9-2, 4.
I mean, incredibly stupid race to run it in yesterday. I mean, I don't know what he was hoping again, because I mean, he was only going to show it up. I mean, if he'd gone there on the back of the York run, I think we could have all filled with boats at 25s.
Yeah.
Silly boy, Paul.
Yep. Right. I think that's a suitable time to close the show. I hope you've enjoyed the chit chat like we have. We always do. We are back on Friday with our preview show. There's me, John, Andy Richmond covering the Haydock Cup meeting. We've got a normal Sunday sermon next week. The following Tuesday we have the St Ledger preview with myself, John, Andy Richmond, and Quentin Franks. New guest there. I'll explain more about him for the preview show. And then on the Friday of the Ledger meeting, we've got a terrible lineup, really. Hopefully, we've got confirmed the Ginger Hitler is back for the Ledger meeting. We're hoping for Nick Davis to sign, seal, and deliver for that Friday before the Saturday. And then obviously the sermons as usual. Chris will be back on the Sunday following the Ledger Saturday. So we hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back on Friday. Me, John, and Chris signing out for now. Bye for now.